Good morning. Uh, This meeting is being held in person in the Gas Commission hearing room with a hybrid option to enhance public participation. Instructions for the virtual observation and for submitting comments are included in the public meeting notice and may be found on the Gas Commission's website. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of a quorum with the participants of Commissioner Urbania, who is on the virtual, and Commissioner McGraw. I'd like to have the agenda read, marked, and entered into the record as Gas Commission Exhibit 1. Executive Director, please read the agenda.
The Philadelphia Gas Commission will hold its regularly scheduled meeting on Tuesday, August 11th at 10 a.m. in the Commission's hearing room on the 18th floor, 1515 Arch Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with a virtual option for those who cannot attend in person for the purposes of considering 1. The approval of the minutes from the May 12th, 2026 Commission meeting. 2. The Executive Director's update. 3. An executive session followed by a public vote pursuant to Section 708A1 of the Pennsylvania Sunshine Act to discuss a personnel matter involving the approval of the Philadelphia Facility Management Corporation offer of employment to PGW's next chief financial officer, the Philadelphia Gas Works proposed fiscal year 2027 operating budget, PGW's presentation on the results of its geothermal feasibility study, and such other business as may properly be brought before this commission. A link to the virtual meeting room will be posted on the commission's website so as to allow virtual attendees to observe. Christy Brady, Chair.
The first item on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from the Commissioners' May 12th, 2026 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the May 12th meeting?
I make the motion to approve the minutes from the May 12th, 2026 Commission meeting.
Is there a second?
I'm-
Evan,
I'm sorry, hold on.
I will second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The room, since the commissioners are going to be out for the executive session. Upon our return to the room, we will restart the cameras, and as Chair Rubin said, the vote will take place in public. Thank you.
Philadelphia Gas Commission is now reconvening its public meeting following the executive session. During the executive session, the commission discussed the proposed appointment of PGW's chief financial officer. No official action was taken during the executive session. We'll now proceed with the consideration of PGW's proposed chief financial officer. And is there a motion on appointing the chief financial officer for the Philadelphia Gas Works?
Motion.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you. We will approve Brian Dingerdissen as the Chief Financial Officer for the Philadelphia Gas Works. All those in favor say aye.
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 Next, we'll, where are we at? Recommended decision was issued by the Executive Director, Jamela McClendon, and Commission staff on July 10th. After receiving exceptions and comments by the Public Advocate and PGW, a revised recommended decision was issued by staff on July 31st. This document will be marked as Gas Commission Exhibit 2. I'd like to ask Ms. McClendon to provide a brief overview of PGW's proposed fiscal year 2027 operating budget.
On May 15th, 2026, PGW filed a proposed operating budget with a proposed non-fuel operating expenses of $310 million rounded. After commission staff's customary due diligence, including the conduct of discovery and a public hearing, which was held on June 24th, 2026, commission staff issued a recommended decision on July 10th, 2026, wherein staff recommended that PGW's proposed FY 2027 operating budget of $310 million, again rounded, be rejected, and instead a fiscal year 2027 operating budget in the amount of $309 million rounded be approved. A $938,526 reduction in PGW's proposed FY 2027 operating budget.
Thank you. We'd like to provide the participants with the opportunity to make a brief presentation before we call the question to vote. First, we'll hear from PGW. Brooke, you're going to handle that for Mr. Desant?
Yes, good morning. Brooke Darlington for PGW. The proposed FY27 operating budget is now before you for final approval. As you know, this matter has been briefed by the parties and the PGC staff has rendered its recommended decision. Suffice it to say, we are not in perfect alignment with the PGC staff on every issue in this proceeding, but we agree with the staff on the vast majority of the roughly $759 million in planned expenditures in the original budget. Notably, as to the issues in controversy, the PGC staff specifically agrees and recommends the approval of planned expenditures for special legal, the feed studies, the environmental remediation at the 9th and Diamond site, information services, and government relations, all of which represent very important budget items that must be fully funded. PGW disagrees with staff in several areas relating mostly to the conditional funding authorization. The company believes it is a mistake to rely too heavily on this option, which just adds another bureaucratic step to our budget approval process, especially when immediate spending is necessary. For example, to bind our mandatory insurance coverage. All of these points were addressed in our brief, and I will not repeat all of them today. The two areas of disagreement I just want to focus on briefly are the planned spending to maintain our targeted personnel levels and the additional reporting requirements that were added for the Information Services Department. We asked the Commission to reverse the PGC staff recommendations on these issues. Regarding the personnel levels, PGW believes that the staff errs in recommending a significant reduction in labor and payroll expenses after trying to fix what seems like an erroneous error of the advocate that was based on an unsubstantiated personnel vacancy rate that was simply assumed. There was no backup to support the 2% vacancy rate that the public advocate asked for. The end result is a $1.939 million reduction in our labor and payroll expenses at this very important time for PGW. This is a significant mistake. PGW's proposed personnel headcount for the next fiscal year comes at a very critical time for the company. That is, PGW must achieve higher staffing levels in FY27 to implement our CSI initiative, as well as carry out our ongoing field services activities. The company cannot succeed with insufficient budget authorization to continue to hire generally and add cadet classes, where we add 50 or more full-time employees at one time. Ironically, PGW is already close to its goal with 1,624 full-time employees as of June 22nd. Moreover, PGW plans to add cadet classes early in this next fiscal year. We will exceed the 1,637 FTEs and will be poised to achieve an average at or above that targeted level for the coming fiscal year. Please note that the Commission has approved personnel levels at this number, at or around this number in the last budget of FY26. There was no evidence presented by the advocate as to why this year's budget must reflect a reduced workforce. We are much closer to this targeted headcount at present than we have been in the past when these comparable headcounts were approved. PGW submits this is not a time to hamstring its operations. It will maintain and achieve these targeted headcounts. It requests sufficient budget authorization to provide these optimal services needed for our customers. The recommendation of the PGC staff to reduce the targeted headcount should be rejected. And I'll wrap up with just a couple notes on the additional reporting that was added for the Information Services Department. We agree with the staff that the immediate spending authority was granted. However, the staff inserts a caveat that quarterly reporting is now required for all of the IS expenditures. This reporting would include purchase orders, invoices, for the field laptops, desktops, nano PCs, hardware, software purchases, subscription renewals, as well as expenditures related to contracted system and network engineer consultants. All of this reporting appears to be in reaction to the advocate's criticism of PGW's response to PAOB 22 during the discovery phase. The company suggests a better way to address this issue. Now that the IS department has had more time, we can prepare a detailed response with the additional documentation that was sought. Instead of the quarterly reporting, PGW requests that it be permitted to submit to the commission and the advocate the additional budget documentation with a one-time submission. And it can be directly responsive to questions raised in this proceeding with whatever deadline the commission would ask for. The company proposes that this additional documentation can be supplied with the compliance budget filing or earlier in lieu of the quarterly reporting that was recommended by the staff. Based on these revised recommendations, it appears that the staff is requesting both this one-time submission and quarterly reporting. We suggest one or the other makes sense, and preferably the detailed data response. So as alluded to before, PGW requests that all of its exceptions be sustained. We believe a full record has been presented to support our position. This morning, I focused on these two areas that deserve your particular attention, that were the targeted personnel levels and the IS reporting. We understand at this point, the commission must weigh in and make their final decision for this upcoming fiscal year 2027. And we appreciate all your time and consideration. Thank you. That's all I have.
So the personnel costs that are in the budget here, that's management and union together, correct?
Yes.
So we just approved the chief financial officer and there's a salary associated there. We've been pushing for a COO to be named and put in there, and there's going to be a salary there as well. Are both of those included in the personnel costs that you're putting forward?
That is correct.
So the,
For both positions.
so the additional positions that you're asking to fund, are they going to be management positions at high salaries? Or are they going to be brought in as union employees at the,
Defined, it's just a head
I'm
count,
sorry, I can't hear you.
just a head count as far as that's concerned. It's not identified specifically where it will happen.
We don't have any guarantee that you're not going to take this money and put it into management and not bring in new employees.
If the commission, please, Andre Desant, our intention is to hire full-time employees, the headcount, not to use that for any other purpose. And that's our intention, and we are of that resolve. Thank you.
I understand that's your intention to hire new employees, but are you going to hire new employees at a management level, or are you going to bring them in the service area?
Normally,
be-
what it would be.
Thank you.
The union people, when we have a class, cadet class and distribution or field services, that's why we feel confident that we're going to meet this level. Because if it's management, where I had maybe 1, 2, 3 people or something like that, but it's the union rank class, and it'll be maybe 15, 20 people all at once.
But it's not spelled out
It's not.
normally, and all of these words are not saying that you will. So is there a commitment that they will be not used for management positions?
Can't make that commitment based upon some people could resign or something like that. We replace them.
We're talking about additional, right? We're talking about 1637 that you want to go up to, right?
Yes.
So the additional positions, not to backfill, not to do other positions, to reach that number,
Reach the number we're looking at would be union people.
that's a commitment.
If I can give that commitment, position. but I mean,
Closest we're
that
gonna
would be the
come, right?
intent.
Okay. Questions?
No questions on this item.
You were finished, correct, Brooke? Okay. Are you done, Mr. Desant?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I am. So it's
Evan,
Rob
do you have any
Ballinger.
questions for PGW?
I'm okay, thank you.
Ballinger?
reviewing and making recommendations to you regarding PGW's fiscal year 2027 operating budget and forecast. I submitted several exceptions to the hearing examiner's recommended decision, which I will just briefly elaborate on for your consideration. Before I do, I'd like to respond to the discussion about headcount. What we're experiencing here is nothing new. PGW routinely comes in and budgets for 1637. It has for the last 2 fiscal years, and it has not attained an average employment level of 1637 in either of those years, and it's fallen well short. In fact, PGW routinely loses dozens of employees at year's end, and it takes months, I believe it was 8 months in fiscal year 2025, to regain the level of employment that it had going into December. And that number has still not reached 1637 when PGW has recovered, I believe it was 1,622 employees as of November. So we've heard these arguments before. PGW will not attain 1637 average employees because for each month that it has less, another month it must correspondingly have more, and it simply has not happened. History tells us that. So turning to my exceptions, I want to talk first about the feed study and environmental impact study. As you know, the Commission's prior order amounted to a recommendation for PGW to include those line items in its operating budget. For any budget decision the Commission makes, the record support developed through the process we're currently engaged in. Accordingly, it is the record of this operating budget proceeding that either supports or support those budgeted amounts. The public advocate remains concerned that PGW's feed study proposal is both premature and excessive. We expressed a number of concerns in our brief and in our exceptions, but I want to focus on one of them, and that is alignment with the city's carbon neutrality goals. We continue to believe that PGW's proposed LNG plant is oversized, and we find direct support for that belief in PGW's forecast, where PGW states that it projects increases in revenues associated with capacity release and off-system sales. Those increases appear to be directly tied to the excess capacity PGW is planning with a plant capable of producing 3.3 BCFs of LNG annually, which is 33% more than PGW's existing plant. Producing more LNG than needed to serve PGW's customers is unsupportable. Additionally, if a feed study is proposed, there should be only one such study. PGW failed to disclose in response to direct and clear questions that it planned duplicative feed studies. 2 studies, not 1. This is just one instance in which PGW failed to cooperate in good faith in the process of reviewing and developing the record of this operating budget proceeding. Regarding the environmental impact study, we simply recommend that be conditional. We want the Commission to attain the results it needs for future consideration, and so we think the Commission needs to ultimately approve and sign on to the RFP to make sure that the identified contractors are the right contractors to do the environmental impact study and know what the Commission wants to be the outcome of that study. Ms. Darlington talked about information services. I'm going to revisit that as well. The hearing examiners recommend that you approve PGW's budget but require more information later. That's putting the cart before the horse. PGW now says it can provide the information that we asked for. It didn't provide it when asked. It didn't provide it during the hearing. It's stonewalled. And now PGW says, oh, we'll just provide it now. Well, that prevents us from actually considering it and telling you what we think about it. Continue to believe that the $8 million that PGW has in information services is unsupported. It should not be approved, and it should be conditioned upon PGW's subsequent disclosure and our review of PGW's subsequent disclosure explaining what lies behind the numbers. Again, your decision should be based on the record. Currently, there is no support. You cannot look at the record and determine how PGW calculated that expense. So you should not approve that expenditure. PGW's special legal budget remains bloated and an unnecessary placeholder. Because the operating budget is not a line item budget, you should adjust special legal budget as you should any area of operating to reflect what's likely to be. The hearing examiners recommend you continue to disregard PGW excessive budgeting. After more than 25 years during which PGW has never needed the amount it had included in this area of expenditure, time to take corrective action. You should approve the Public Advocate's $1.6 million downward adjustment. Finally, regarding PGW lobbying expense, this commission has stated that it wants to collaborate and more or less align with the PUC on rates. Lobbying expenses are not allowed in rates, so approving their expenditure from PGW's operating budget directly conflicts with the PUC's determination on rates. If approved, $100,000 that should be used for other purposes would be diverted for functions that customers are simply not supposed to be paying for. You should eliminate the $100,000 PGW has budgeted for lobbying. Thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
When we're looking at the feed study, the comments are not clear. Is it 2 studies or is it you're going to look for 2 bids? How is that laid out? Because it says they submit as prudent to do more than 1 feed study because ideally we would like to have 2 options. So that sounds like there's 2 companies that are going to do 2 bids. And then if we follow through, it says that it's very likely that we will save the cost of the second feed study by having more than 1 vendor in this context. So how are we saving the money on the second feed study if we're doing 2 feed studies?
I'm gonna have Bill answer that.
We want to have 2 studies that we can compare the costs to make sure that we have a good number. If we just had 1 study with 1 number, we wouldn't know how good it is. So we need some way to compare 2 studies to give us an idea that we're getting a good estimate as far as that's.
But it says that it's very likely we will save the cost of the second feed study. So how do you save the cost of the second feed study?
Won't say studies.
So, Mr. Desan, in your response, this is what's listed, so that's not correct?
I'm not sure what you're referring to, but the second feed study, it has a benefit because it tells us that we're on the right course to pricing the facility. And if we have the competitive 2 vendors in the mix over the long haul in determining the overall cost of the project, it's over 180 million to try to make sure that we husband our resources as best we can. So the feed study is sort of the foundation or the advanced engineering that sort of lays the foundation for what we're going to do in the future. It's dollars well spent to avoid an excessive cost for a very large project. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to manage our costs as best we can by having 2 vendors and having the credibility of and the competition that would instill to get the best price that we can to move this project forward. It's the necessary first step. The $4 million was also in the commission's directive to us that was given some months ago. So taken together, we believe that's the best way to proceed.
You're going to put out an RFP for a feed study. You're going to get more than 2 responses, and out of the responses, you're going to take 2 to do the actual study?
That's my understanding.
Okay, so why does it say that they're going to save the cost of the second feed study?
Because if we get a competitive offer, in other words, as opposed to saying the cost of the facility would be 200 million, we find something lower than that, more like 180 million, what we're projecting now. And we're just trying to make sure that we have the best information we can for a complex project. And with 2 competitive voices, it's almost like when you're going out for a bid in any circumstance, you're looking for the most reasonable offer that you can to accomplish what you want to do with this project. And so we can save the money overall in the long term because we have spent the money wisely.
I understand. So the reason that the way you're saying cost savings, you're not saving it by not doing the second study. You're saving it because by doing 2, the cost will come down and the study would be incorporated in the savings overall.
We believe so, yes.
Now I understand.
If I may, I find that entirely speculative, that there's been no discussion of that on the record whatsoever, that there was any savings to come out of spending twice as much as PGW needs for the feed study.
They're finding. So
That's in, I'm sorry, that's in the recommended decision?
no, it's in the submission by PGW.
The exceptions come after the hearing, after the briefs, after the recommended decision. So the record closes and PGW is now alleging that there's some hypothetical scenario in which it spends double and it saves half. I don't buy it.
I have a question, and excuse my ignorance in this, but so for the feed study, are we saying that we're also looking at value engineering or ensuring it's the right sized, for the liquefier? Like we're assuming a size, right, going into the study. Post-study, we could find that it doesn't need to be the size based off of usage and where we are with the system size, correct?
We have determined the size that we need at this point in time.
But how's that determination been made?
Done an analysis of how much LNG we need to find winter conditions and have thanks for the beginning of the winter season.
And PGW has made that analysis.
That is correct, yes.
It was a third party involved in reviewing that analysis.
If it was internal as far as PGW.
And so would a feed study also include the evaluation, based on best practices of how to determine that size?
I think if I'm not mistaken, the commission, in their decision basically said they agreed with PGW on the size of the plant.
Well, I think we said that we wanted to see what the study said. Yes, but I'm asking, right, like would the study also include sizing, or are we just saying that it's looking at engineering overall?
We have determined the size of the plant, and the bids will come back based upon that size.
I see.
Commissioner Urbania, do you have any questions?
And while we wait, are we also are we staying on the environmental studies too, or is this where we are? Okay, so, because it was brought up by the public advocate. So I'm curious about the environmental impact study, and I think that there's been a lot of back and forth over what this should include in the way. So am I understanding from the public advocate's explanation that, are you of the mind that we're involved in, like the commission is involved in the RFP process? Is that what your recommendation is? Or are you saying that the commission should be doing this environmental study?
Well, we certainly believe that the commission has the authority under the management agreement ordinance to retain a consultant to do an environmental impact study. PGW has taken the position it doesn't want the funding or to be responsible for that. So sort of the hybrid, the middle ground would be for the commission to remain involved, either, probably both in reviewing the RFP before its issuance and in reviewing the bidders and their submissions to make sure, again, this is a study the commission wants. And so I want to make sure that if customer dollars are spent on it, that the commission gets the product that it needs. If I may just briefly touch on the feed study again, PGW's design winter criteria should not be the basis for an investment of this magnitude. PGW is not going to have a design winter. Okay, it's that those days are gone. Okay, so we need to be reevaluating and updating PGW facilities to plan for a future and a new design winter that's much lower than the demand historically has been.
Commissioner Urbania, do you have any questions? You're muted. Good, okay. Ballinger. Next, we need to take brief comments from the members of the public who are present here in person. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes and should only address PGW's proposed fiscal 2027 operating budget. And do we have them sign in, the ones that want to do comments? Okay. So when you come up to give your comments, please notify us who you are, what you're associated with, and then begin right into your comments. We'll time it from the point where you start to introduce yourself. First, from Local 686, is there a representative that wants to speak on behalf of the union, or several?
Turned it off. Okay, first up to speak is Patrick Houston. As is our normal procedure, And as the chair mentioned, you have 3 minutes to speak. Introduce yourself first, who you're here to represent if you are representing anybody. Once you've completed that, I will begin your 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Patrick Houston. I'm with the Here for Climate Justice Coalition, but I'm testifying on my own behalf today.
Okay. Mr. Houston, you can begin now.
Okay, great. Thanks for this opportunity to testify. I'm listening and made some adjustments. I mostly just want to reiterate some of the core asks that I would ask of the Gas Commission. Many of these coincide with some of the core asks of Here for Climate Justice. But one of the main demands, and this is also included in the letter that we submitted on the record to the Gas Commission, is to ensure that the alternative study is prioritized in the environmental impact assessment. And particularly there, we would love to see the Gas Commission to oversee the alternative study. What we continue to see is this inflexibility and rigidity from PGW itself, and even trying to pull out this information using the FEED study as an example that to me does not demonstrate working in good faith with the public to move our city in the direction that we need. And so if the Gas Commission would dedicate resources to oversee that study, find the firms that will complete that study, et cetera, I think we could move in the direction that we need much more quickly. A second thing is continued oversight around the risks analysis. Want to make sure that even beyond in the budget decision, but even beyond it, I think we're still seeing evidence that we're going to need the Gas Commission's close oversight to make sure that the scope and the depth of the risk analysis that are completed are in line with the concerns expressed from the Port Richmond community and beyond. The other thing, just to clarify, and this is also included in the letter, is that some of the risk analysis are indeed typically included in a FEED study, and some are also included in an environmental impact assessment, particularly that environmental impact assessment, the IAIA, International Assessment for Impact, International Association for Impact Assessments, the document that the Gas Commission recommended that required PGW to follow includes risk analysis.
30
too.
seconds.
Thank you. And so I'm just emphasizing here that the risk analysis done both in the FEED and in the environmental impact statement are closely scrutinized by the Gas Commission to make sure they are in the spirit, the depth, and the scope of what the community is raising. Lastly, I'll just mention that the further details, again, are included in the letter sent to the Gas Commission last year, and we'd ask the Commission to both consider those in this decision, sounds like they have, and also beyond over the next few months as these studies are being completed to make sure they're in spirit of what the city needs.
So Mr. Houston, you can stay there a second. So as you're aware, we did meet with you and your group to hear your concerns, go through the process. I did explain to you that the PFMC is the group that does the operational, we do the financial, and we look for the financial connection to make sure that that's done in accordance with what we ask for, correct?
Yes.
So as your group comes up to testify, we don't need to cover that area again. If there's something new that you'd like to add in or something that we haven't talked about, then we would rather use that time for that, if that's okay with you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Karen Melton. Again, please introduce yourself, and once you've completed that, I will start your time.
Okay, Karen Melton, and I'm testifying as a PGW customer.
Ms. Melton, remember, introduce yourself, then I'll start your time. Let me be clear before we go any further. I'm being kind of rigid about this because I want everyone to have their full 3 minutes. If taking the time out of your 3 minutes to introduce yourself doesn't seem fair to me. So that's why I'm asking you to introduce yourself, give it a pause, and then I start your time so that you have as much time as possible to say what you have to say, not taking time out of that to say who you are and who you represent, okay?
Okay,
So you can begin now.
thank you. I just want to keep coming back to the problem PGW says they're trying to address, which is peak demand, and it's something we all agree is important. Their only proposed solution is an LNG plant larger than the current one, which already produces more LNG than is used during peak demand, leaving in excess to sell. They repeatedly say the existing LNG plant saves ratepayers $90 million a year, and yet that calculation does not take into account the cost of producing and storing the LNG and maintaining the plant. So we don't really know whether it saves ratepayers, and if it does, how much. PGW has other peak demand responses available that they do not utilize. Commercial contracts that provide everyday lower pricing in exchange for allowing reduced gas delivery on emergency or peak demand days. And as I understand it, there are other demand response strategies they are authorized to use but never have. Yet the only solution PGW proposes is an expanded LNG plant. You, the Gas Commission, have the authority and responsibility to require PGW to seriously identify alternatives. In addition, there's no reason given for, until today, the first time I ever heard any reason given for two different $2 million engineering studies. And they told you at a previous meeting that they have no idea what an environmental impact study is. So clearly PGW needs direction, and that's what I and others are asking you to provide. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Elaine Foltz.
Good morning. My name is Elaine Foltz. I live in West Philadelphia. I'm a ratepayer, and I'm here just on my own behalf.
Okay, you may begin.
Oh, did you?
Okay, you may begin now.
Thank you. I just want to begin by agreeing with the public advocate, the most basic statement, which is that if the city of Philadelphia is going to meet its climate goals, it's essential that all budget requests from PGW be looked at through the lens of that effort. Do PGW's plans move the city toward net zero carbon emissions by 2050, or do they stand in the way of that? And I think in the current context, this definitely means looking at alternatives to expanding the Port Richmond LNG plant, alternatives that could replace our city's current heavy reliance on gas with new forms of clean energy. And I think it also implies the need for a comprehensive risk analysis of all those alternatives focused on public health and safety. You guys are key. Your oversight is critical to ensuring that whatever PGW does now in relation to Port Richmond focuses on these key questions. And for that reason, I agree with those who have said earlier that we really need you to oversee the completion of the study of alternatives. And just to underscore what I consider to be the importance and obviousness of 2 points made earlier, lobbying expenses should not be allowed to be included in the rate structure. So the $100,000 that is there for lobbying should be eliminated. Customers should not pay for that. And absent a clear rationale for 2 engineering studies, I hope that you will streamline the process and approve just one. In conclusion, I would say, last but not least, that I really appreciate the role that you have played so far. I really appreciate your careful examination of PGW's original proposal for an expanded LNG plant. I deeply appreciate your listening to the residents of Port Richmond and to others like me who are concerned about Philadelphia's air and environment and about the climate crisis. And
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
And I appreciate your decision to defer funding of the Port Richmond project in the absence of a strong rationale. So please continue this kind of rational and public-spirited oversight. We need you to do that, and we're looking for your leadership. Thank you.
Next, we have Emily Davis.
My name is Emily Davis. I'm a member of Geodelphia, but I am speaking for myself.
Okay. You may begin now.
Purpose of the geothermal
Step closer to the mic.
The purpose of the geothermal feasibility study was to see if geothermal heating and cooling was a possible business model for PGW. The next action should be to build the system.
I'm pausing your time. I don't want to cut into your
Okay.
time. We can't really hear you. You need to be
There.
as
Thank you.
close as
Thank you.
possible.
Okay.
Okay, your time's resuming now.
Okay, the next action should be to build the system and to build a billing system for the two customers. There should be a line in the budget to fund this project. It's not there. There should also be funding for a plan to extend the project to businesses and residents who are willing to participate around the McCluskey School. If PGW doesn't do this, the availability now of third-party financiers to become the utility for geothermal projects will further decrease the customer base of PGW.
Okay,
Very much.
thank you. I just want to, as a reminder, this portion right now is for comments related directly to the FY27 operating budget. If you have comments or questions on PGW's geothermal presentation, you will have an opportunity to raise those once we get to that portion of the meeting. But right now, we do want to focus on the FY27 operating budget, directly on that. So next we have Mitch Channon. Mr. Channon, are your comments on the budget or geothermal? Okay.
I didn't know we could comment on the geothermal, but I'll do that too later.
Well, I
Later.
mean, there's going to be a presentation. I think that it's reasonable to expect that there may be some comments and questions.
Great, thank you. Now I'll focus on the budget now. Thank you very much.
So introduce yourself and then I will start your time.
Sure. Mitch Channon, Northeast Philly resident, PGW ratepayer. I'm a member of the Here for Climate Justice Coalition.
Okay, your time starts now.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. Just want to elaborate on a couple things that have been said. Restating the values that I hold and that I think are motivating all the folks who've come today. We want to make sure everyone can afford heat in the winter and that it's reliable. And we want to protect clean air and a livable climate at the same time. I understand the Commission's focus is not on the latter two items. So I'm going to frame things in terms of affordability, prudence, good fiscal management. From what I understand, this proceeding's been very complicated, but the Commission has asked that there be an environmental impact study. There's also a request to fund 2 FEED studies, but the specific content of them is not fully clear. There's been a conversation about whether or how the scope of the size of the LNG plant has already been determined or if that is still in question. And there's a question about how many FEED studies there need to be. So I'm really struck by the fact that many of us for months have been raising the concern that PGW has not validated why it needs an LNG plant of this size, nor has it considered alternatives to meet the need that the plant is supposed to address, which is to ensure reliable and affordable heat on the coldest days. There's been no long-term demand forecast associated with this project. There's been no examination of how demand response initiatives or new supply options like the geothermal project that we're going to talk about later, there's been no examination of how those could meet that need for reliable and affordable heat in the winter. So from the perspective of financial prudence and good fiscal management, the commission absolutely needs to take control of this process and make sure that there is a thorough and complete examination of alternative methods for ensuring that there is reliable and affordable heat on the coldest days. That absolutely has to be done. They have not justified why the plant is supposed to be this size, and there's no examination of methods that could save customers money and could have a lot of co-benefits in terms of climate, air quality, and public health. And so I really implore the commission, whether it's in the feed study, in the environmental impact study,
30 seconds.
or both, to ensure that there is a complete and thorough examination of alternatives with public input and scrutiny allowed. And there should be, otherwise we're all going to be back here in a year arguing over whether or not there should be funding in the capital budget for a plant that might not be necessary. We need you, the commission, to have all the information about alternative options, and you need to make sure that happens by directing the studies to ensure that the information is made available. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And last, we have Kate Kraus.
Kate Kraus.
You have to, can.
My name is Kate Kraus, and I'm a resident of Port Richmond. I appreciate
Okay, you can begin now.
the leadership of the Gas Commission on this matter. The prosperity of PGW as a company, as it is configured at this time, is not the same and may be antithetical to the health and prosperity of Philadelphians. We are in a new era. I have not seen credible evidence that this project is even necessary to heat the homes of Philadelphians. Instead, the goal seems to be arbitrage. I support an alternative study for the LNG tank site, the badly needed risk assessment, the environmental impact assessment, and one, not two, feed studies. We need to reset our thinking. The most economical source of energy for Philadelphians may turn out to be renewable, solar or geothermal or something else, sources of energy that give residents more control and are not just a hammer looking for a nail, and they do not explode. The stewardship decisions you make today will impact the future of Philadelphia and the prosperity of Philadelphians. 1 in 4 people here is struggling to feed themselves, as you know. PGW seems to push unwise and untenable plans through its large in-house legal department, which customers are paying for, and through lobbying. The city has a proud history of invention and inventiveness. Let's put that to work together to help the people of Philadelphia.
Thank you.
No more people to testify in person. Were all the public comments received before 9 a.m. this morning furnished to the commissioners for review?
Yes, they were.
Have all the commissioners had an opportunity to review the public comments that were received by 9 a.m. this morning?
Yes.
Mr. Urbania, Commissioner Urbania. Thank you. Thank you all for participating as we deliberate. All identified exhibits will be entered into the record of this meeting. This matter is now before the commission for action. Is there a motion to accept staff's recommendation, PGW's proposed fiscal year 2027 operating budget?
I move that the commission reject the hearing examiner's recommended 1% vacancy adjustment for payroll and labor expenses and approve PGW's proposed payroll and labor budget as filed without adjustment and adopt the remaining recommendations in the updated recommended decision.
Is there a second to the motion? Mr. Urbania, second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Roll. Commissioner McGraw?
Aye.
Aye. The vote was 3 in favor. The fifth item on the agenda is PGW's geothermal feasibility study presentation.
Good morning, Commissioners,
Morning.
Commission staff. My name is Florian Temme, Vice President of Marketing and Energy Planning at PGW. I had the privilege of leading our internal team through the geothermal feasibility study. On behalf of PGW, we appreciate the opportunity to share these findings and welcome your questions following the presentation. Exploring the feasibility of geothermal is one of many forward-thinking initiatives PGW has undertaken in recent years. This study reflects a sustained commitment to collaboration, rigorous planning, and the delivery of innovative energy solutions for the people of Philadelphia. Network geothermal may be one piece of a much bigger picture at PGW as we explore revenue diversification at the company, actively seeking ways to grow revenue, deliver value to customers, expand our clean energy portfolio, and cut emissions. The study also informs PGW's assessment of its role in delivering energy services beyond natural gas, while continuing to meet current customer needs. From the start, we knew we wanted a site that could tell us something replicable, something we could scale across the city. That's what led to our partnership with the School District of Philadelphia, Philadelphia Parks and Rec, and the city's Office of Sustainability. I'll talk about choosing the site. Together with our partners, we landed on 2 adjacent properties in Northwest Philadelphia's 19150 zip code, John F. McCluskey Elementary School, and the Dorothy Emanuel Recreation Center. This wasn't random. A school and a rec center are exactly the kind of everyday high-impact public buildings where innovation can deliver real impact. This selection also lines up directly with the school district's own Green Future Sustainability Plan and with our mission here at PGW. Now we'll talk about the process. As you know, PGW issued a request for proposal in March 2025, seeking a qualified firm to conduct a geothermal site survey and feasibility study. Following a review and selection process, PGW executed an agreement with Alderson Engineering, which conducted the study over the following months. The objective was to determine whether a closed-loop geothermal system capable of supporting multiple heat pumps for heating and cooling represented a viable option for the site. PGW and its project partners, the School District of Philadelphia, Philadelphia Parks and Recreation, and the city's Office of Sustainability collaboratively reviewed the complete submittal package. All partners had the opportunity to review the materials and provide feedback prior to public release. Last week, the full geothermal feasibility study was made publicly available. Some key findings: favorable geological conditions. The geological conditions of the site are favorable for vertical borehole drilling, a hole that has been drilled straight down into the ground. Above average thermal conductivity. Local thermal conductivity tests, which measure how well the ground can transfer heat, indicated moderately above average thermal conductivity, which is an important factor in geothermal systems as they rely on the ground to extract heat in the winter and exchange heat in the summer. Aging HVAC infrastructure. The existing oil-fired HVAC equipment at McCluskey does not provide cooling and has exceeded its expected lifetime and is recommended to be replaced. Philadelphia Parks and Recreation recently completed an HVAC project at Dorothy Emanuel Recreation Center. Viable system design. To implement a geothermal system, the planned borehole systems, related delivery pump systems, and enclosures would be placed on the grass area next to the playing field area of the site. The geothermal utilities would deliver fluid to a heat exchanger system in each of the connected buildings. 2 options are available for housing the pumping infrastructure: a prefabricated building or in the school's basement to reduce costs. Future scalability. The geothermal system design anticipates the ability for future scalability providing the opportunity for additional properties or buildings to be safely integrated into the loop over time. Now let's talk costs. There's no getting around it. Geothermal is a bigger investment upfront. If the objective is limited to replacing the existing heating system, natural gas remains the most affordable and efficient solution. If the objective includes both heating replacement and the addition of cooling, the ability of a geothermal system to serve both functions through a single system creates a cost efficiencies relative to separate systems. The primary geothermal solution is estimated to cost approximately $19 million. With projected incentives of approximately $7.6 million, the estimated net cost is $11.4 million. Second alternative is estimated to cost approximately $25 million, with projected incentives of approximately $10 million, resulting in an estimated net cost of $15 million. These incentives projections are contingent on the investment tax credit offsetting approximately 40% of project cost. The study compared 3 paths: replacing the heating system as is, an electric heat pump base case, and the geothermal solution. The replace in kind option, which modernizes existing heating infrastructure without adding cooling, carries the lowest capital cost of the 3. The electric heat pump and geothermal options represent a larger scope of work, as both include the addition of full building cooling. For incentives, the geothermal option's capital cost is approximately 49% higher than the electric heat pump base case. With federal tax credits applied, the net capital cost of geothermal is estimated to be approximately 11% lower than the electric heat pump option. Realizing this advantage is not guaranteed. Maximizing the benefit of the federal tax credit requires overcoming procedural requirements, including single ownership of the project, which project partners must evaluate carefully. The bigger picture, this project doesn't exist in isolation. It's one thread in a much larger effort at PGW to lead Philadelphia's clean energy transition. This year, we launched our Low Carbon Pathways project to map out long-term decarbonization strategies while keeping safety, affordability, and reliability front and center. We've had emissions reductions targets in place since 2023. Our 2025 fiscal year goal was 10,500 metric tons of CO2 equivalent reduced. We beat it, hitting over 12,000 metric tons. We've consolidated 8 facilities into a single North Operations Center, cutting emissions from those retired buildings in half while saving money in the process. We partnered with the National Park Service to modernize aging steam infrastructure. We're a leading member of the Mid-Atlantic Clean Hydrogen Hub alongside the city and regional partners. And we've launched an Energy Innovation Lab with Temple University alongside direct investments in customers, free efficiency kits, and smart thermostats for low-income households, energy assessments for small businesses, and EV infrastructure. Where we go from here? The public release of this study represents the beginning of the next phase of evaluation, not its conclusion. PGW will stay engaged in an advisory role as the school district, Parks and Recreation, and the Office of Sustainability figure out what comes next. Findings support measured optimism. Technical conditions are favorable, and while the cost and incentive landscape presents real challenges, the results warrant continued, deliberate evaluation. But none of that closes the door. It just means the path forward requires care, partnership, and patience. This is what sustained collaboration looks like in practice, and PGW remains committed to it, to innovation, to our customers, and to building a cleaner, more affordable, and more equitable energy future for every Philadelphian. Thank you. I welcome your questions.
Sustained collaboration. We would have liked to have seen the study before it was released publicly to the press and started getting the questions and comments that were coming. That it was kind of disingenuous to do it that way. I'm not directing it at you, but Mr. Desant and
I'm sorry. We're certainly happy that you have the report now and the public has access to it. It's been published and posted at our website. And we apologize for any delay in delivering it to you. I cannot hear you. I'm sorry.
the company was supposed to come in May and give us the update on that. they postponed it. They were supposed to come in June and they postponed it. And then they were going to come in August. And before they came in August, they released the study to the press and to the public. So it didn't seem like that was a pretty good partnership that we were hopefully working together with.
Boy, I
Mr.
apologize
Fiorina.
for the misstep. I apologize for that misstep, sir. That was not certainly the company's intention to do anything except inform you in a timely way, and I apologize.
Can you tell me who prepared the geothermal report?
Alderson Engineering.
Were you a part of that process?
Yeah, our team was, along with our partners, worked with Alderson Engineers as engineering as well as their subcontractors.
Did you head that for the company?
I did.
Is there a reason you weren't quoted in the article?
Not sure. The Inquirer article?
Yes. Can you give us a history of your background and where you've been in the company and what you've done that would put you in this position?
Absolutely. I'd be glad to. I've been with PGW for 23 years. I started out in marketing, spent a couple years there, and then I worked in our gas planning or gas management department, evaluating how we actually plan to bring natural gas and meet the energy needs of the city. Shortly thereafter, I moved on to our IT department and spent 3 years as a project manager, all while continuing my education. I'm a graduate of Temple University's Fox School of Business and Management Information Systems. And I had the opportunity and privilege of PGW affording me that opportunity to go to St. Joseph's University and do my MBA there. After 3 years in IT and working with our field operations as well as some of the other departments, I moved on to our supply chain department, analyzing critical stock items as well as how we deliver materials safely to various job sites. Shortly thereafter, I went back to marketing to oversee our residential and commercial department, working with builders, developers, and homeowners to evaluate opportunities on how they could save money with natural gas. I've been with PGW over 23 years, and I've done quite a few projects that I think gave me and my team the ability to lead this opportunity on behalf of the company. And the partners, school district, the Office of Sustainability, Parks and Rec, were absolutely great to work with and collaborate with. This was not a simple or an easy project. PGW is very well informed on natural gas infrastructure, but this was a new opportunity for us to evaluate geothermal. So I was very, very glad to lead the team and work with our partners on delivering this feasibility study.
You have a pretty big breadth of knowledge of the company and the different departments and where it comes from. You didn't just get picked out of a hat to be able to do this project, correct? Okay, and you have operational experience, and so you were able to put all of that together in this process? Okay. Commissioner McGraw, I'm sorry, I'm not used to that. Commissioner McGraw, do you have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Tomei. So can you talk about you mentioned PGW continuing to support in an advisory role?
Yep.
So I think I just, for the record in here, and why is this not something that PGW thinks that implementation is possible for the company?
No, I could definitely talk to it. So as I mentioned, the incentive tax credit is a very, very, very big portion of this project, about $7.6 million. The way the tax credit, in order to take advantage, it has to be the same entity that essentially owns the bore fields, as well as past what we'd consider the meter, or PGW typically stops. The same entity has to own the equipment past that point. So as currently structured, PGW in our current setup, we stop at the meter. And without that investment tax credit, I think this makes it for an expensive proposition, which that's part of the concern. And PGW is evaluating, and we're in the process of determining whether PGW can own additional energy assets beyond natural gas infrastructure, such as geothermal, but that's an ongoing process that has not completed.
And as a part of the, being in the state of Pennsylvania, under the PUC, is there currently a way to, for an organization to charge for geothermal that you're aware of?
I don't believe so. I remember talking to the commissioners, they're very much in favor, but I don't believe there's tariffs that have been established under the PAPUC that allow natural gas utilities or other types of utilities to currently own and operate geothermal projects.
And then I guess like what if it was in some of your different breakdowns of options, what if it was like a blend of gas and geothermal, I guess, because like right now, as you said, the structure, really the only mechanism to charge would be through tariff, right? And so there's not currently an avenue, even if in a blended scenario, that you could appropriately bill for
I
geothermal.
believe so. So that's something that needs to be explored further. But yeah, you're correct.
Commissioner Urbania, do you have any questions?
Oh, you're muted. You're still muted, Commissioner.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so has there been any further consideration around funding sources for proposed project?
In terms of like outside funding sources?
Just any options. I imagine I know that's a bigger discussion, but I'm just curious if there's any initial opportunities that come to pass other than what's in the report and since it's been published.
Yeah, so I mean, we've listed some of the opportunities that exist out in the public fuel. So PICO has rebates, so does PGW, but no explicit single entity as far as I'm aware. But you know, to Commissioner McGraw's point, that's something that should be explored further with our partners, because we're working, you know, with the School District of Philadelphia and the Parks and Rec, who have their own budgets, opportunities, and projects they're working on, but not
Okay.
that I'm aware.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you so much. I appreciate the feedback.
One final follow-up for me. So as PGW is currently structured under the city's management agreement with Philadelphia's Facilities Management Corporation, there is not a, would it be possible to amend the agreement, or is that what would be required? I guess I should ask. Would an amendment be required for some kind of service, I guess like energy service company charge, right? Like to be able to operate some kind of facility that would have geothermal like this?
Andre, you may want to elaborate, but I think the answer is yes.
I think that's true. And Raquel will regale us as to all the particulars there, our general counsel. But we believe there has to be a change in the management agreement.
But it would be if there was a change in the management agreement, it would be allowable under current PAPUC's statute for an organization that is also gas. Or we're not sure.
I think those are two separate questions. One, we locally can examine. The second, we'd have to get one of our PUC council to weigh in, because I think we're in uncharted territory.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. We will get there, but we're not there yet in terms of all the answers.
So this was not an action item for the commissioners to be voting on, but we did make it known that you would have an opportunity to comment. So if you do want to comment just on the geothermal, not on any of the other things that are coming on, line up behind the microphone, single file, and we'll give you a minute to be able to comment on this. If there's an actual vote that comes as a board, then we will expand it and we'll go to other areas. Florian, please stay in case we need to ask questions after there is comment. 1 minute. You got it.
So comments are allowed or only questions or both?
And one minute.
1 minute. Okay. Can I take 10 seconds to get my, okay, I can do it.
If you.
I'm good.
Just introduce your normal procedure, introduce yourself. I'll start your time once you're done.
Sure. Mitch Channon, PGW ratepayer, Northeast Philly resident.
Okay. You can begin.
So we have been anxiously awaiting this study for 4 years since the funding was approved in August of 2022. I'm still mystified as to how it could have taken 4 years, but I'm very grateful that it's done. And I guess my comment is just that we need to move expeditiously to address, legal regulatory matters. Like, this is a project that should be done. It should have been done already. Just sharing in addition, this is not unique to Pennsylvania or Philadelphia. There's conversation about this in multiple jurisdictions across the country
20
with gas
seconds.
utilities moving in this direction. There's plenty of colleagues to consult and regulators, gas utility executives, advocates in other states. We want to see this done right away. And just the last thing I'll say, last night, as I was working in my office, I heard Action News. There was a report about thermal energy networks and a plan to move forward. And I ran down the steps as fast as I could because I thought it was something about Philly, but it was a report about New York City, where they are planning to implement a thermal energy network in New York. So we need to get this
Mr.
done now.
Shannon.
Thank you. Okay.
My name is Patrick Houston, and I'll start.
You can begin.
Okay. My main comment, I guess, is more of a question for PGW. I'm glad to see that this geothermal feasibility study is finally done. And if the utility is serious about its needs to diversify its revenue streams, then I would wonder, is PGW doing anything besides just being a support to the other stakeholders, but to look further, to talk to is PGW going to talk to the commission, to council about those needs that need to happen in the management agreement ordinance or at the PUC level
20
to actually,
seconds.
thank you, to actually open up the door so that they can pursue this. I don't hear any sign that they are. That comes as no surprise to me because I have this remaining skepticism of PGW's commitment to us actually transitioning so that it can maintain affordability, jobs, and sustainability into the future. And so
Okay.
I think that speaks volumes to this continued need and why I appreciate the questions from the Gas Commission to see what next.
Thank you.
First is on the cost.
Introduce yourself and then I'll start your time.
Emily Davis, resident of Philadelphia.
You may begin now.
Okay. In the cost analysis, no one considered the cost of the climate, the cost of asthma to our children, and even the reduced cost of electricity to run the system. So those weren't included in it. And as far as the ownership, I know there are schools in Pennsylvania that are already using third parties to build their systems, to maintain the systems with a guarantee for 20 years. They'll even train janitors to run the systems and then charge a cost for maintaining the system and the power. So there's already
20 seconds.
That's it. Okay. And of course, there's a system in Massachusetts that's already doing it.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm Kate Kraus. I'm a resident of Port Richmond. And
you can begin now.
And I'm bad at this system. I just want to encourage us to find a way to start calculating the amount of money that the city is spending on more and more climate related disasters, because the money is piling up that we're having to spend on that. And I think that we should find a way to include that in the calculations as we go forward. It's just a very general comment, but we are spending a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carolyn Klepser. I'm a Philadelphia resident, member of Geodelphia, but I'm speaking for myself.
Okay, you may begin now.
I just want to point out it's not necessary to look at other cities for geothermal systems. There are already operating systems within our city, some including the Kappa High School in Kensington has been operating with geothermal heating and cooling for years. Also the Bartram's Garden, the Ronald McDonald House, the German Historical Society. There's numerous other geothermal systems that have been set up privately already. And I encourage you to visit those places if you have questions about the technology and the finances. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so just of a follow-up from me, one, just to address public comment. I understand where many are coming from. I think just want to be clear that the goal of this study with PGW was for PGW to do an assessment of what would be possible from a PGW perspective. However, like when we're talking about outside costs, right, like PGW's assessment is based off of their system and what would be possible. And so just want to be clear of what the scope of the commission is able to bring here. I also just wanted to just to follow up, my final follow-up on this is for the amount, I believe it was $500,000 for the study. Was all, do we know if all funding had been spent? And if not, would it be possible to put this towards legal analysis or feasibility of what a new structure would entail?
The commission, please, Andre Desant. I'm not aware that we spent all the money, but perhaps Florian can tell us the money that's been spent.
Well, he
and
was
the
in
extent
the
of it.
middle and his mic was not on, so. But
Oh, I'm sorry.
I appreciate
apologize
it.
about that. So no, the full amount was not spent. Approximately $186,000 of the 500,000 was spent on the study. And I could definitely take it back to PGW if we're allowed to spend the rest of the money on legal counsel and next steps.
That would be great. And some kind of follow-up memo or something,
Certainly.
you know, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the final item on the agenda is such other business as may be properly brought before the commission. The chair wants to thank the Philadelphia Gas Works for filling the role with a qualified candidate for chief financial officer. Also wants to recognize the work put forth by the Philadelphia Facilities Management Corporation for their efforts to help fill the role. Exactly 1 year ago, the Gas Commission colleagues and the chair raised concerns about executive level positions not being filled for years. At that time, they specifically called for the COO and CFO positions to be filled on a permanent basis. While we're pleased that they have taken the action today to fill the CFO position, the COO position remains vacant and has now been without a permanent appointment for nearly 5 years. PGW is undertaking another search for a permanent COO, but that process will take time. The commission does not believe the company should continue without someone formally serving in this critical leadership role while the search is underway. PGW's experienced senior leaders within the organizations may be able to fill that role, including individuals with more than 20 years of experience at the company. We are calling on PFMC and PGW to appoint a qualified internal candidate to serve as acting COO no later than September 15th, 2026, while the search for a permanent COO continues. Is there any other business that would be brought before the commission? Heidi, you want to do?
Yeah, I have it here. So.
Oh, you have it. I'm
Yep,
sorry.
no, it's okay. We were looking to send staff to a PUC pipeline safety conference in State College, September 9th through 10th.
We need a motion for that.
Motion to approve staff attendance to the PUC pipeline safety conference in State College from September 9th to 10th.
Commissioner Urbania?
Second.
Motion was made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. There we go.
Aye.
In the affirmative,
Three
Commissioner.
ayes. We're good. Any other business to be brought before the commission at this time?
One moment.
Heard with legal, we're okay where we are. Any other business to be brought before the commission at this time? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.